This is Beverly with the Beverly Gale channel, and I have a couple of series on coping with blindness, my journey, and coping with everything. And when you're a senior, coping is the number one thing you have to do. So if you are a senior and you have issues, which most of us do, whether it be financial or emotional or just practical issues, check out some of my videos because I deal with the practical and I share a lot of my experiences and what I've learned from them, and I try to share them with you, and hopefully some of them will make sense and help you. In this video, I'm going to talk about isolationism and depression and some of the ways that I found to be able to cope with this pandemic when the people we love cannot be around us. As a senior with low vision and the inability to drive, I find that I am very dependent on other people to do things. So during the pandemic, it made things extra hard. At least before, I could reach out to the busing and have being picked up. And now that is very hard because they only will allow 1 or 2 or 3 people on a bus at a time, which means you can't just pick up the phone, call a bus, and get out. That form of isolation alone is very, very disturbing. I noticed that with my friends. I would talk to a lot of my friends on the phone, and by the way, that's one of the things that I found to help get rid of some of that depressed, isolated feeling that I have. And so I did not recognize my isolationism and my inability to cope as a form of depression until I took a very hard look at it. And what are we talking about? Well, I have a lot of things that I have to do, and being visually impaired, it takes many times longer than normal. And during this pandemic, I had a devil of a time trying to do those things. For whatever reason, I had this strange ennui where I did not feel like I wanted to move. I had lost my energy. I had lost my desire to do things, and it was like a form of spring fever where I wanted to play hooky from everything that was important. But I found in talking to my friends that they also had the same thing, and I thought, well, this must be part of the COVID experience. This isolationism must cause some of this because let's face it, the world is upside down. We don't get to do things out very much. And if you are, even with a car, going out and doing anything, it is so strange out there with everybody wearing masks and everybody social distancing. So the whole world is experiencing this bizarre phenomenon. And as I spoke to more of my friends, I noticed that they were experiencing a similar form of ennui. Some of them to the point where they knew it was depression and they were having a hell of a time with it. In my case, I didn't think of it as depression. I just thought of it as playing hooky. And I didn't feel like doing anything. And I normally have a very high energy level, but my energy level was literally down to my toes. So I got to thinking about that, and I thought, well, if this is a form of depression, and by the way, I didn't come by that, with a flash. I was watching television, and I never watched commercials, but I was watching the commercials on these drugs that cause depressions and the types of things what depressions are, and I was pretty surprised to think that some of my symptoms were actually falling right in there. And so, well, maybe this is a form of depression, and how do I get out of my moods when I'm depressed? So in thinking about it, because that's the way I am, I thought, well, what can I do to decrease some of this feeling that I've got? Well, one of the things was, because I didn't feel like doing anything I should be doing, I got on the phone and started talking to friends I hadn't talked to in a while. And I went through a whole series of people and talked and talked and talked over the course of the last few months and realized that by being on the phone and at least reaching out with them, I was lifting my spirits. And one of my friends moved, and she's a little more computer literate than I am, And she set up the long-distance meet calls, which are the same as a Zoom call. It's face-to-face. And I found that to be fascinating. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you are sitting there and you're wondering how can you pull out of your depression, one of the ways might be to reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a long time and start socializing via the telephone. And I'm not referring to texting, because texting is a form of socialization, but it's a very narrow form of it. It's a person's voice that you haven't heard in a long time, which triggers memories. That's a form of socialization. So pick up the phone, reach out, talk to people. You will find that that will start to make you feel less isolated. Another thing I did was I started to listen to my Android Alexa, and I started asking her to turn on different types of music. And I noticed that during listening to this music, it was uplifting. Now, we've just passed through the Christmas season, so I'm dating this a little bit, but during that period, and I found a station that before Thanksgiving was playing Christmas music, and it made me feel good. So I kept it on all the time. I decided I'm not having anyone over at Christmas time, but I'm putting up a Christmas tree. And I put up my tree and I decorated and I had a lot of fun with it. And it made me feel good. A form of music that also takes you back. You know, smells will take you back. If you go into a sweet shop or you go into a bakery, they say that smells will trigger memories. Well, music does that as well. And some of the stations that I found were, one was from iHeartRadio called Soft Rock, and that played a lot of the music of when I was dating in early years of my marriage. And it really brought back tons of memories, and I found myself smiling and tapping along to the beat and even singing with it, even though I didn't know the lyrics. And then, of course, with Christmas carols, everybody sings the Christmas carols, and who knows whether they're singing the right lyrics or not, but everybody sings them, and you feel better. It just gets your pulse racing a little bit. I also found that I have an adaptogen. It's an herb called Rhodelia rosea, and it is an herb that seems to have a peculiar ability to raise the serotonin level when it's low in the brain. That's why it's called an adaptogen. It doesn't just pump it in there. Chemically, it searches for an amount of serotonin, and if it doesn't find it, it releases the serotonin from the herb and lifts your spirits. I've talked about that on one of my videos, and I will see if I can pull that video up and put it in the description below. You can search for that and just click on it and listen to what I found with some of the herbs that help me. Another way I found that was helpful was starting to move more. If you have an exercise program, try to turn it on and force yourself a little bit to start moving. It's amazing how that lifts the spirit. On a different video, I talk about classical stretch, which has been a godsend for me to feel better. And I will link that up in the description below as well. But walking is something most of us can do. And if you can walk, even with a walker, try to do some walking every day. It encourages blood flow, and it makes that mobility factor in your body click on, and you begin to feel better. I started walking in the hallway because I didn't want to walk outside. And I take my phone, and if you have a smartphone, there are free apps, pedometer apps. I put one on my phone, and when I carry my phone, it actually registers the number of steps that I take. It turns it into either miles or kilometers, and it tells you how long you've been walking. And it's a wonderful little app, and it's really easy to use. It doesn't have too many bells and whistles. I will also put that in the description below and give you the name of it. And it helps you to keep track of when you do go out, how much you're walking. And last but not least, find a hobby. Do something that you enjoy. Did you knit when you were younger? Did you do crafting? Did you sing? Find a hobby. Did you play cards? Did you like board games? Try to find something that you can do as a hobby to take you away from watching television, even though it may be more as a sedentary if you're sitting in, or reading. If you're sitting and reading, it still is a different form of mental exercise. Reading a book mentally will pull your brain and make your brain move and work differently than when you sit back like a vegetable and watch television. Well, I hope one of these little tidbits will help you to recognize what you need to feel better. I hope you liked this video, and please, if you did, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button down below. And if you are interested in new videos coming out, hit the little bell, and that will notify you when I have a new video coming out. So until next time, be well, stay safe. Bye for now.